I wasn't expecting to see you so fast again. How are you? I'm very fine. Hello, my friend.
Yeah, actually, it's just 1 week ago that we had our last water show, and today we have a special edition of the water show because we
So it's a
thought,
Christmas edition.
yeah, it's kind of a Christmas edition. It's like, but I see maybe more of a New Year edition. It's this saying, New Year, new me. So maybe some people in this water industry may want to do this New Year, new me. And it sounds like right now our sector is hot in opportunities, in job opportunities, which is one part of the story. And the other part of the story is that it seems like we have a hard time attracting all the talents we need. So why don't we help?
I mean, you came with the idea to me, and I was thinking, maybe Antoine is looking for a new job. Are you looking for a new job, Antoine?
I'm not looking for a new job, and you might
Because I
even
have just
discover
I have your boss here on the phone.
you might even discover that I'd be happy to have new colleagues. So, but I
Oh,
don't want to spoil too much. So, are we ready to kick off?
I'm always
Tell us
ready.
tell us in the chat what you'd like us to cover today. You'll notice that it's a bit more freestyle than what we do usually. So really feel free. It is really your show as much as our show. And that being said, let's go for our credits. So here's the deal. I've been looking around the job boards, the companies. I've selected some offers which I find interesting. I think Björn, you did the same, right?
Yes, I did. And the interesting fact, let's say to spoil a little bit, if you go, for instance, to Stepstone and you put in just water, guess how many jobs you will find? Pick a number.
Some hundreds.
6,738.
So
I
it sounds
mean,
like
sounds like there's a huge opportunity at the moment. If you're looking for a new job, hey, just go around, right? I mean, it looks really that there are so many jobs open. And furthermore, I mean, I was reading an article some time ago, and it was about how many open jobs we have actually in Germany, not only in the water sector, just really open jobs in Germany. And the number was incredible. What do you think is the number? How many
well,
how many
Germany is that country
jobs
where you
we have?
always want to work, work, work. So
Yeah. Work with an Ö, right? 820,000, open opportunities right now. 820,000. Still, we
so that's
have,
Germany.
yeah, I mean, that was a number I could get very easily, right? But it's interesting, right? That we have so many open jobs. I mean, still, we have even more unemployment people. True, right? But 800,000 open jobs was, and 6,000, hits just above water. That was interesting.
Let me give you a couple more numbers and then we can kick off with our first job offer. The first number, which was pretty impressive to me, is to see that the average age of the water workers is about 4 to 5 years older than the average age of the general population, which means that if you're working in the water sector, chances are that you're a bit older than the regular worker. And the downside of that, I mean, the good side is we have a hell of experience. The downside is that when that generation will retire, we will have even more of a problem to fill in the roles. So that's one of the topics which probably we have
Is
to
it,
discuss
is it
today. Yep.
is that a global number you have?
I've
The average,
that's why I'm
or is
saying
it, is
four to
it
five because in the US it's five. In France it was four. It depends really. I looked up 6 or 7 different numbers, and they were all into that trend. And if you go a bit more specifically, you have one portion of
yeah.
the water sector which is older, which is the water engineers. But I would say that's pretty logical because they start their career later because they have to study engineering. But the most surprising one and maybe alarming one is that the water operators are even older than the water engineers, and arguably the water operators, they should not have started that late their career. So it's this kind of discrepancies which makes that we go to the second number, which I saw, which for the that one is more a US number, where you have utilities which have openings for 50% of their positions and which do not find people to fill in the roles. So it's not a rule like 50% of the jobs would not be filled, but you have specific utilities in big cities where 50% of the jobs are open, which is a devil's circle, because then if you're working and you're the other 50%, then your job gets difficult because you're acting
Yeah.
for two, and then you might resign and leave the industry. So that's one of the things we'd like to fight today. But we have 5 minutes in. I want us to be sharing a job. Who starts first, you or me?
You, it was your idea, so ladies first.
You had to be nasty. That's part of you, right? So I was browsing a bit the excellent job boards which we have online from some of these
I was checking
paid.
Imagine H2O as well. I couldn't find this. That's interesting.
Well, actually, that one made me think that on the Imagine H2O platform itself, you have a hell of different offers. But among those offers, I found one from Imagine H2O, which is looking for an associate. So basically, if you're into startups, in your innovation, how to develop that market, how to develop that field, how to get a faster track to get that technology adoption, well, probably you'd like to get associated with the historical and arguably biggest water accelerator there is, Imagine H2O. So they're based in San Francisco. But if you go for that position, you don't have to be based in San Francisco. It is a remote position. So you can be based in San Francisco or in one of the other US states, which they have been covered, or in Singapore, where they have some people working, or simply at home, wherever you are. And actually, you will have really it's a fat job description, because you have lots of different aspects. You have to be discovering startups and to engage with them to create your network. You have to be working in communication and marketing, and they also mention how you shall be probably doing stuff up to maybe podcast. So give me a call, I can maybe help you out. And there's is development. But what I really liked about it is that you have really this fat description, which makes me think that it's really a job where you have to be willing to work, clearly. But what I like, and it's a common thread in all the jobs I selected, is that they're not asking for an incredibly long experience. If you look, they ask you to have a minimum of 1 year of relevant professional experience, which is required. So arguably they are letting an open chance to everybody. And even more, you have the description, but they also have this writing on the bottom saying that if you don't feel that you fully fulfill the description, but still you believe you would be a right fit, they encourage you to reach in your to apply.
Hmm.
God, my English is broken today. They encourage you to apply. And so, honestly, that sounds like an incredible opportunity to have like a fast track into the world of water. Björn, would you apply?
Well, it's a junior position, right? That is something. I
You're
would
saying
say.
junior just because they don't ask for a
Yeah, well, I
long.
mean the minimum 1 year professional experience. I saw that.
Yeah,
So
but
I
you
think uh, if it would be a senior, then I would consider that.
oversee internal and external marketing communications, ensuring that Imagine H2 is positioned as a leading resource for water innovation stories and insight. That doesn't sound too junior to me. But
Hmm. But the question is here. I mean, how much water do you need to know? That is, I mean, I looked at all positions and I was asking myself, okay, how much water do I have to bring with in terms of
I guess
knowledge about water and
Imagine
technologies?
H2O. H2O is in the name, so one would argue that maybe you need to know. I get where you're coming from. Um, I think if you want to the element of engaging with the startups, if you have no clue about water, you'll have a hard time to connect with people which are process people, which are coming to solve a specific challenge. I mean, if you look at the alumni and the portfolio company of Imagine H2O, it's really companies which are foot on the ground and wheels on the road. So it's
Hmm.
not really
Hmm.
like up in the sky. They're not mining Bitcoin. I mean, it might be startups, but it's water startups. So I guess you have to understand water. But it's a fair question. I mean, Björn just gave you a hint. If you're applying for that position, you may want to ask that in your interview. So thank it on Björn. So that was my first one. And as you see from the number of tabs open, I guess I cheated. I have much more than the 10 we had foreseen. But Björn, maybe it's time to get
Yeah,
take one of yours.
give me my first one, because you said the first time, okay, let's talk about junior position. And the first job I found was for one of our, let's say, biggest, industry companies, which is DuPont, right? So it's one of our biggest companies we have. And if you're really looking forward to find a job to start really in inside the water industry, maybe that's a word that's a good entry for you. This job is because of someone left for maternal leave. So they will stay at home mostly a year or two with the kids because new kids are born. And so they need a replacement for that time. So, and if you are, for instance, if you are from abroad and you want to settle in Germany and you're looking for the water industry, hey, that's a perfect fit. Here you have to learn a little bit German. You go directly to the one of the best brands we have, and you get the knowledge of the water industry. You get the knowledge of sales. It's a sales position. It's about ultrafiltration, really about a lot of stuff. And let's say if I really would look for a job opportunity going to Germany, maybe from abroad. I mean, we have a lot of people coming from abroad going to here. That would be definitely one of the things I would be highly interested in, especially due to the fact it is DuPont. And if you're really good, we all know that they will keep you. They will not kick you out if the other person is coming back. So that is interesting job opportunity for my. And look at that. I mean, we are in Germany, so we have a very very good compensation package. 30 days holidays. I mean, who else
You're
has
highlighting a
this?
lot of German stuff, which nobody understands beside you, but yeah.
True, but that's what I'm saying. 30 days, you get 30 days holidays, you get everything, really everything. You get trainings, you get very good company culture is
Firmenfitness,
written
that's
there
cool.
as well. Firmen fitness, that means you most probably they have a fitness studio. I know that Veolia is going to a new office in Germany, and they have these, the table kickers. Antoine, have you ever played these kind of table kickers? So we
That's how you
should
know you're in
meet
a
one
startup,
day.
so yeah.
We should meet one day, and we should kick out something. No,
I
that's
will
that's
lose.
pretty interesting. Most probably, but that's
So you
interesting.
would
If you're
see
really coming to,
the maternity leave replacement as an opportunity.
if you are coming to Germany, for instance, if you're
Okay.
from abroad, I know a lot of people coming from abroad, or if you really just left the university, or let's say if you don't have any experience at the moment, right? And before going really the long run, so why not starting with that? I think it's a fair
Well,
opportunity.
it's a fair opportunity. Personally, I would have a hard time applying for this kind of fixed term contract where, I mean, it's someone else's
Yeah, but
position, so it's not really your project. You're
yeah,
doing an interim. So
but anyway, if you convinced
I get what
about
you're saying.
yourself
If you're
about
good, they will
performance,
keep you. It's not where I'm
exactly,
concerned.
it's DuPont, and you get. I remember my university time. Everybody wanted to have Bosch on his application
Resume.
letter. And the resume, exactly. Thank you, because Bosch is a brand, right? So everybody wanted to have Bosch on the resume, just to show, hey, I was working even just for 2 days with Bosch, right? It's the same here. DuPont is a name. So if you really want to go into the industry, even if you have no clue, just go there, and that is really an easy, call it, access to the industry. If you bring the knowledge with, if you're coming from abroad, if you're open to speak a little bit German, hey, come on, let's go,
Sounds fair. Let me switch to my next one, if you allow me.
please.
Actually, my next one is probably the exact opposite from what you just shared. You shared a big company inside the water industry. I'm sharing more of a startup scale up. Um, 120 Water, if you don't know them yet, maybe you should listen to a wonderful podcast which was made a while ago. I interviewed Megan Glover, who's the founder of 120 Water. And what they do, they act in a very specific field, which is the field of water analysis, not with sensors or whatever, but really going this extra mile in between to get people a better knowledge and better understanding of their water. So they go B2C, but mostly B2B, and they're looking at a sales position, business development representative, so to beef up their team. And what's interesting to me here is that really it's if you want to have again foot on the road and start really working from the grassroots, it is an awesome opportunity to get into the water industry sales, because here everything is to be built. I mean, it is a young company which has an
What are
aggressive
they
growth.
doing? What are they doing? Give us a pitch.
Well, you take. I mean, the base pitch is simple. Is that Megan one day was eating a Whole Foods, these cereal bars, and then you look at the packaging, and everything is written on it. You know exactly what's in. If it's so much glucose, so much whatever, and if you take your glass of water, well, simply you have nothing. So you get water
Mm.
and you have no clue what's inside. So she called her utility, and her utility told her that they don't have much more of a clue. So she felt that there was a gap in that market, because people want to understand what goes into their body, and utility want to communicate with people so that they better understand what goes into the body of their customers. So it's about testing the water, collecting samples, sending them around, and also doing all the logistics so that the database is always up to date, and having this communication element of building the B2B platform so that the consumer can then get from the utility the message that 120 Water has been helping to put together. So that is really their value
Okay.
proposition. And here you would be discussing with utilities and rolling out a bit what 120 Water can offer. So I really picked that one because honestly, I have to say, my feelings is that working with Megan can be a really great opportunity. Someone with a drive, with really this entrepreneurship mindset, of course, backed by the right investors slash accelerators and the right ecosystem. So you will get a bit like with your Dupont position. That's why I choose this one to follow. To me, it's a good entry into a different part of the water industry, which can really get you places. So that's the reason why I selected it. Um, while
Pretty
I'm
interesting.
discussing this kind of jobs, I have to mention I didn't pick any of the Transcend job openings, just because they were very specific, and because I guess that because of the sexiness of Transcend, they don't struggle to find candidates. But if you are really into this machine learning AI stuff, I have some positions as well, which I will share. But Transcend has like dozens of jobs open right now. I think they just got a new round of funding. I just mentioned them because we had Adam on the show some episodes ago, and talking of people you probably want to discuss with and work with in order to get yourself into a different position within this industry. I think
I was
those are
I
the
was
kind of.
expecting you just got a message from Adam saying, "Hey, you need to highlight us as well."
No,
That would be normally the
none.
Adam style.
Maybe it's important to mention here, we are by no means affiliated to any of the companies we are showing today. It's really, we went out, we looked at the job, and we thought, oh, those positions are too cool to be ignored. So that's why they're here in the selection. But I give you the steering wheel,
I'm
Björn.
not
You
not
get
sure
the mic?
that this is right. That this is right. You don't get anything out of that? I was thinking we
No?
just go and collect. No?
Should
Okay.
we?
Contracts.
Okay, let
Well,
me
I don't know.
put a contact from together. Let's put in the chat all your coordinates. I can then sell them to some companies. No, of course not. Of course not. It's our Christmas gift as the water show.
Exactly. So give me the next. Come on. The next one is really for Xylem. And the interesting
Oh,
fact
interesting.
here, I mean, it's German written. You can find it on Stepstone, but it is first of all 100% remote, so you can more or less work from everywhere. And it is from Xylem Water Solutions UK. So, and the interesting fact is senior marketing data and insight manager. So this is really if you are interested in, and in marketing, in strategic things, and funnel things, and how everything works together to find leads, to convert that in CRM systems, things like that. And if you have a passion for water, hey, bring that together, and here you go, right? And you're working for one of the big and good brands. I mean, we talked about Salem, I think last episode was it, about what they all do for their employees, and how they run the SEG and their CSR and things like that. So that's pretty interesting. And let's say if you are really looking for something, going to a big brand, having something meaningful, and if you are maybe not so technology focused, right? If you are not the nerd, as for instance, I'm not a nerd. I know a lot of stuff, but I'm not the nerd who can, sit on the desk all day long for an R&D department for the water industry. If you are like me, that would be the perfect position. Really, that would be the perfect position, and I like that. I mean, for sure, it is Silent, and you will really be part of CRM. They use Salesforce, so you have really on the top tools. They are using marketing automation and things like that, and then you can really, how everything comes together. And I mean, that's exactly what they are also looking for. They are not just looking for a person who has the understanding of the water experience with. You need also coming a little bit from the marketing side, from the data, from the insights, and then you can apply. So if you was working for marketing, or let's say for with your CRM system, if you was responsible for that, if you have experience with Salesforce and you want to work with one of the big brands here, with the big boys, you can go for it. I think that's an interesting one. So let's
So
say 5 years back would be very, very interesting for me to go for that.
so as a
But too late. Sorry, Salem. Sorry, Salem. But you can reach out to me. I'm pretty sure we can find a way to work together with this
look at
company.
that guy shamelessly plugging his company.
Hey, come on!
But
You're plugging all the time. Your podcast and GF. I'm pretty sure that you have something for GF in your head. Pretty sure you have, right?
it might come later. But I'm asking now from you as a marketing person to the advice to someone who would be going for that kind of position. How would you address that? Would you go with the traditional cover letter and just apply, or would you do one of these things we see on internet, like doing a
What are the
fake
things you see?
website or being creative?
Good question. I mean, I would never go with a cover letter anymore, right? I mean, nobody is expecting that you get a cover letter. If a company is really expecting a cover letter, for me, it's a warning
It's
signal,
not the right one.
really. Yeah. uh, something for me, something I wouldn't like to work with, if they would go like this. But I think instead of, let's say, creating a web page or something like that, maybe a video is always a good thing. So if I haven't, I
Interesting.
mean, sending something. I mean, if it is digital, right? I mean, and they ask you, okay, send me the CV, send a CV, and send a link to a Loom video, or to put it on YouTube, and you don't make it public, just private, and you send the link with where you just introduce yourself, talk about yourself, what are your experience, right? In a way, 5 minutes max, really, just that they get a feeling who you are, and that is, I mean, more important as a CV. Come on, that is the most important thing. So I
I
would,
fully agree.
if it is
Yeah.
positioned like that, I would go for a video.
Yeah, I think the tool you mentioned would be exactly the one I would have mentioned as well, which is Loom. So if you don't know it, Loom,
Loom is
Loom.
easy.
You
Yep.
just can start recording with your webcam. You record your screen, and you have like an easy way to showcase. I mean, for instance, they show here that you should be knowing Google Analytics or Salesforce. Maybe you want to dive into that and to show that you just master it, just to have some point of starting
I
point for the
say, I say,
conversation.
you know, even if you don't have any clue about Salesforce, but if you bring the technology capabilities with to know, let's say, SAS software, I mean, that would be interesting, right? I mean, every software is replaceable. But if you know one, maybe you know all, or let's say you are faster in getting the tools done, right? If you know one email marketing tool and you're an expert in, I'm pretty sure you can master all the 10 others which are on the market. So because they are all more or less the same.
As you had a Xylem job offering, I just wanted to cluster it with mine
Oh,
actually, because I also had picked one from Xylem, which is a data scientist from Singapore. You said if you're not a techie, then yours is the right. Then I would say if you're a techie, then mine is the right one. I also thought of it like being in Singapore as a data scientist for Xylem sounds like, if you do a matrix of all the cool kids, I guess at the intersection of all these cool circles, you should have that position. So that sounded to me like something you like to look for. Of course, that is a job which, to answer your question, which you had on the previous job, you have little to know about water. You have to be a data scientist, but I guess when you see that Twitter is laying off thousands of people, if I were one of the Twitter guys, I wouldn't jump to Facebook, which is going into layoff, and I wouldn't then jump to Amazon, which is going into layoffs, and I wouldn't be jumping to Goldman Sachs, which is going into layoffs. I would come to the welcoming and evergreen water industry, water sector, water vertical, and I would make sure that we finally do this digital transformation, which we're discussing for years, and which is slowly ongoing. But I guess with all these people which will discover the best place to work on earth, it's going to be so much fastest and so much faster paced. So that was my one which I would mirror with yours, and I have a second which I would mirror with yours because yours was in the UK, and
Mm.
actually I picked two
Well, it was
jobs.
remote actually. Was actually remote, complete. It was under the UK subsidiary.
Okay, so I picked two jobs, one in the UK, so that was my link, and one other which is in Saudi Arabia. Um, Here, and the reason why I picked those two ones is that that would be if you're at a stage in your career where you're willing to make a bet. Because unless you've been living in a cave, you do know that Veolia and Suez have been merging. Well, Veolia and a portion of Suez have been merging. And right now, the remaining Suez is mostly a French company with some arms left and right. But if you hear what people say, the idea is that they won't stay a French company only. They will try to
Mm.
to regain some of their market share abroad. So when you look at their job boards right now, I think they have 1,000 open positions in France and about two dozens abroad, all countries together. So I
Is
see
it
that.
because of so many people left?
I think it's because
Because of the merger?
yeah, it's not directly linked to the merger. I mean, it's indirectly linked to the merger. It's about rebalancing the workforce because you had some of the middle management who's gone and some of
Mm.
the top management who's left, and so you have to rebalance and to re-put some of this middle management in place and to restaff the company, and also because. Yeah, as you said, some people have been frightened by the merger and have been looking at all the position. I don't think that's the majority, but that's part of the story, and now they're backed by an
But
investor who has, yeah.
let's discuss it for a minute. I mean, in the beginning, in the intro, you said clearly, hey, that the average, let's say, water worker is a little bit older than average, right? So that means we have older people, and these older people, call it this way, right? I don't want to be disrespectful. Don't get me wrong, but let's say if you have older people and they fight it years, decades. Suez against Veolia, and now they have to wear one jacket. And how can they live with that? I mean, I'm pretty sure that there are many who would say, "Hey, I fought it decades against the other enemy, and now we are one company, and I have to wear this shirt. Forget it, I'm out here." So, what do you think? How many really affected like this?
I don't want to make a generality here, but it is a common practice to have been working for the two of them. Like you've done 5 or 10 years with Veolia, then 5 or 10 years with Suez, then 5 years with SOR, which is the third big French one. So you often see that in
The other
at least
dinosaur.
in middle management up to lower upper management, people who have been really doing the tour and having been working for all of them, simply because opportunities come and go, and yeah, we live in a market where sometimes you have a new delegation of public service, or you win or you lose a big tender, and then it might be interesting to continue what you were doing but just for a different company. So that's one part of the story. The other part of the story is that there have been sub parts of Veolia and Suez which have been traded between Suez and Veolia, like in their asset rotation. So you would have been, without changing jobs, sometimes the red, sometimes the green. But here, aside from those, I would say, geopolitical considerations, to me it's a bet. You are betting on the fact that you can be really outstanding in a position where they might want to invest in the future, and hence you might be a first bridge to those outside countries. Now, I have to take a pinch of salt here. Having been myself a Suez employee, I would say if you're not French, the story is a bit different because it is a French company headquartered in France with a lot of French management. So if you're not French and you're wanting to build something abroad, you're not the natural person they will look into. Maybe the company culture has changed over the past 5 years. That
Mhm.
might be. I don't want to just say a generality. I've just seen that myself as a French abroad, it was easier for me within Suez than it was for my colleagues who were like Swiss, German, or Austrian and based in Switzerland, because to them it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, they didn't come along. But if you speak a good French, doesn't have to be perfectly fluent, but if you can deal with French, I guess you can overcome that. And anyways, Suez, like all these water companies, if you're really too good to be ignored, you won't be ignored. But those two really, I didn't pick them because of I mean, it sounded like interesting things, like here you're in sales, looking for a new business for the analytics branch of Suez. So the job doesn't seem boring, and new business to me means that you are exploring new fields, that you can be building something for yourself, which will be your legacy. And a bit same here when you're asset management director in Saudi Arabia, where you get to look at the networks, do some audits, and really look into the details of that. Again, we all know that Saudi Arabia is in the middle of a place where you will be missing water in the future. So being working for a water company which is trying to build something there, having that history on top of that, to having built many of the plants out there, it sounds to me like a risk you might be willing to take. But it's a risk. So just to say,
It's
it's not maybe the most
two
straightforward one.
two thoughts on that, because you made a very interesting point that it is maybe easier if you are French and if you're speaking for sure the language, then you are coming faster the ladder up, right? But let's say the other example is, for instance, we know both because she was part of our Akema show. We know Maroika Harder, and she is German and she's living in Paris since, well, I don't know, since when, but she's living there and she's trying to climb up the ladder, most probably, and she speaks perfect French. I mean, you have to judge that, right? But I think at least I was thinking about that. But the other thing I wanted to mention is, I mean, what you said reminds me. Some time ago, I was with Chem Warren, right? Chem Warren is a European branch of Calgan, one of the biggest activated carbon supplier. And I remember, if you wanted to go into the management, the French speaking, the French language was a must-have, because you had to move over to the headquarter of Cambrai, which was really in the nowhere in the nowhere in Belgium, right? I think an hour far away from Brussels, really in the nowhere. And that was the major hurdle for most of the people. First the language, and then the place. Yeah, but you're right.
I think it's a very valid point in the sense that we have to always remember that we are a people's first industry. That's also the difficulty to renew the generations, and all of that is linked, because every time I interview some cool startups on my podcast, I'm thinking, oh, the technology is incredible, it's really cool. And when I ask them, what's your special sauce, what makes you special, what they tell me is the people. And I genuinely do believe it's not a marketing move, it is really true. We are a people's first industry. So I understand to a certain extent, even if we are in a globalized world, and even if it's not that fair, because if I want to go to a company which is not French, then probably have a harder time, and so far and so on. Nevertheless, I'm working for a Swiss company and that works. So there are exceptions to that. But what I'm saying is that I do get why you have to come along with the people. And that is the soft skills, which are maybe much more important nowadays than they used to be in the past, which was maybe more about hard skills.
True, 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 true.
Shall I leave you
Okay.
the floor for your next ones?
Yeah, but give it me first. Give it me first, because before talking about the next, I want to talk about something different. Because this company, Interior Solution, is also looking for someone to come on board, right? So we are looking actually for a social media power manager. So that means if you really master LinkedIn, if you are able to master LinkedIn and YouTube, we are really looking for you. So that means if you bring the passion with for the water industry, which is one of the coolest industry we have on earth, and if you know social media, if you know LinkedIn, if you know YouTube, come on board. Be part of the next team member of Interior Solution, a very fast growing company in our industry. What else can I say, right? You can work 100% remote wherever you live in the world, right? As long as you perform as good as we expect, then please
For
send me a
someone
message. No CV, no resume, no video. Just send me a link, and I will invite you for a call, for coffee, and then we will figure out what we can do for you.
so
So
someone in French
is it
Polynesia.
is not even there. No worries about that, right? But I mean, you need to speak English. That is for sure. If you're just in French, so I'm very bad in French. Ask Antoine.
It's not about the French, it's about the 12-hour time zone difference.
That is the other thing, but even that works. I mean, we have clients really from the US up to Singapore, so we handle time zones. We are
Okay.
able to handle time zones. So if you are master in LinkedIn and YouTube and social media, come on board. It is not a freelancer position. We really contract you.
as
So
much as I say
now,
all the
but
time
going
that
back,
you're
or maybe
let me do
you
the
want to
plug.
apply?
Let me
Okay.
help you for a second. I have to say that I'm making bad jokes about you all the time, but maybe because it's our Christmas special, I have to say it can be interesting to be working with someone as well introduced within this industry as you. So it's a good entry door to the water industry and also a good way to learn this entrepreneurship uh, journey. How you started Interiors. I mean, you would be joining a company which is pretty young and yet
Oh yeah.
quite successful. So you can really
Oh
be
yeah.
part and shape the history of the company. So again, I have no stakes in that. I'm just saying that because genuinely I think that it must be interesting to be working with
But I,
Björn.
but I expect your application, right?
Oh no.
Okay. But
the
maybe you know someone for who that would be interesting. Okay. Back to topic. The other thing I found is a strategy manager for Thames Water Utilities. We all know Thames Water. Thames Water, one of the largest utilities in the UK, and they are looking for a strategy manager for sure, based in the UK, clearly. And this is really about working with the strategic director to figure out startups, new technologies, to implement that, to figure out a way, how to position Thames Water in their tough market over there in the UK, to bring them forward. If that is really interesting for you, and you bring with, the competences from water as well from strategic perspective, from finance perspectives and things like that, if you have both of that, if you can combine that, go for Thames Water Utilities. This is also one of the flagships we have. Everybody wants to have Thames Water somewhere on the resume, right? And as you can see, also, it's not a high level position, but it is a good position. It's a mid management position, 50,000 to 70,000 pounds a year, right? So it's pretty interesting. So if I would be, let's say, thinking about moving to the UK, which will never happen, then that could be an interesting job offer, really, for a water pro. What do you think?
I've seen many people who have, as you said, had as one of the milestones in their career, not only Thames Water, but one of these typical UK utilities, these private utilities. I guess it's a good way to learn the job, and then whether to strive in the job and do your career inside one of those, or use that as a milestone which you can then showcase. But yeah, sounds
The
like
interesting fact about the interesting fact, I mean, this is strategy manager at Thames Water, but let's say if you're working really for a utility, and then you are, going back, or let's say going to the dark side, to the industry, call it this way, then you have two perspectives. Then you know exactly what the utilities are looking for, what the industry should deliver in terms of service and technology. And and you have from both ends, you have the network. And that is pretty strong. Think about the CEO from Skion, right? He came from, was it Thames Water? At least the UK utility. So
I mean, if you want to
it could
find out
be,
the best ways to listen to the podcast interview I did with him, because this is revealing it. You pushed me.
I know. Yeah, I know I did. But that's an interesting sum. But here, even there, even here, it's a water utility, and other, let's say, competences are more in the forefront as competences for water. That is what I found very interesting. So,
True.
but anyway, everything can be learned, and if you're coming with a background from the water industry, and why not taking giving a chance? I mean, going to the Thames Water Utilities to is a nice logo on the resume if you want to have one.
So I know that the show is called 10 Water Jobs, but as you see, we have prepared more than 10. So if you don't mind, we will keep on
If we are
presenting you
if we are
some,
done
some
with
jobs.
10,
I have a bit more. But Björn mentioned how it's cool to work for Interior Solution. I have to tell you about another company which is cool to work with. It's called GF Piping System. It happens to be my current employer, and it's a great company for a number of reasons. From a human perspective, you'll be very happy to work for this kind of company. But here, what I really like about this position, it's a bit, what you said, Björn, about 5 years ago would be interesting for you. Honestly, it's not about 5 years ago. It's about if I didn't have a wife and three kids, probably that would be interesting to me. Actually, we have inside GF Piping System a division which is doing water sensors. So, and those water sensors are produced and designed, and the full innovation team is based in California, in Irwindale. And actually, our headquarter as a company is in Schaffhausen. So here, that position is to take over the team in Irwindale. So uh, I'm probably pronouncing that bad. It's Irwindale, maybe better that way. It's 30 people working over there, and you will become the team leader of that team. But before being the team leader of that team, you will be hired at the headquarter in Schaffhausen for 1.5 year, so that you get trained on the job, so that you get to work with our R&D department, with our head of innovation, with our head of R&D for measurement and controls. And you will really get to understand the culture of the company from starting from the headquarters. And then you will go to the US as an expat, which means that we are not looking for that position specifically at someone which would be already located in the US. It's, if you're in Europe, feel free to apply. It's really the idea that you get to understand the company culture, so that you can then be the bridge between our Swiss headquarters and our great departments out there in California. So there's also a sales company in California. You won't be alone in the desert with those 30 people, but still you will be the bridge between those two words. It's an awesome position, and as I said, if I was willing to relocate right now, which is not the case, I'm happy to be in my house with my wife and my kids. But that is really an exciting position. I would be looking into.
Can I add one thing? First of all,
Yeah.
I mean, I was shocked a little bit to hear that you have to stay 1.5 years in Schaffhausen to get the culture, because 1.5 years is really a long time, especially if you think about going to the US. But it makes absolutely sense. And what I can say is the coffee in Schaffhausen is pretty good. It's really pretty good. But the other thing is, and that I think makes everything hard for this job application, is that is what I have learned is if you have to master two languages, which is German and English. If you bring both with, then you are fine. But most of all, let's say, people outside the German speaking area, they don't speak German. That's really the case. So English, everybody's speaking, but German is tough. It's really
I
tough.
would say yes and no, because we are asking for German at professional level, and I'm considered to have German at a professional level. So it's not, you don't have to be like, it doesn't have to be your mother tongue, as long as you can sustain a technical discussion and having the
Yeah, but
meetings in German.
even that is pretty hard. Come on,
I'm not saying
to
it's
have a
easy. I mean,
technical
it's
meeting.
it is an awesome position, so we have to have some
Oh yeah,
requirements. But um,
sure.
you're right. 1.5 year in Schaffhausen may sound like a long period of time. Honestly, if you're living in Schaffhausen, you won't see the time. I mean, it's going to be flowing. It's doesn't sound, but it is really a cool place to be. GF is a company
Schaffhausen is
founded
pretty
in,
nice, by the way.
yeah,
Schaffhausen is pretty nice. I mean, there was a waterfall from the Rhine. I mean,
the
that's
Rhine
that's
Falls.
a,
But GF
a beautiful
has
place to live.
GF is a 220 years old company, so you can imagine there's a bit of history inside the company, and you have to understand that, because really you're looking to become that bridge to the US. I think in terms of career opportunity, that one is really awesome. But honestly, and of course I'm biased, but I think I would have picked that one even if it wouldn't have been my employer, because I even took that offer and sent it around in my network. So if you feel you have the profile, I would encourage you to reach out. I think our recruiters, René Paparusso, is going to be very happy to hear from you. And if you don't find him, which would be a good way to test you out, because his contacts is down here on the page. But if you can't find him, reach out to me. Uh, Let me switch to you, Björn. What's next?
Yeah. What's next? I'm going in a different direction because I mean, the industry we are in, we are serving, let's say, another industry, for instance, the food and bath industry or the chemical industry, and they are producing something. And what they need is they need operators for their own wastewater treatment plants. So what I have figured out is Südzucker is one of the largest sugar manufacturers we have here in Germany. So, and they have tons of, let's say, other way around, every production facility has their own wastewater treatment plant. And what they are looking for is they're looking for a process engineer who's an expert in water and wastewater. So, how cool is that? So, if you're bringing that with all the knowledge from the industry and now you're going really to the call it end user, which is not the utilities. In that case, really the industry, that could be a really good fit. Another one I found, which is going similar direction, is head of wastewater treatment with Roche. So it's a huge chemical company, and they are looking for someone which is in Penzberg, which is very close to Munich. So even there, a very nice area to live. So if you really have the knowledge, technical knowledge, and you want to go really to the let's call it the end user and not the utilities, not the water wastewater utilities, go to the industry, for instance, the chemical industry, and that is a huge opportunity. And I think if you're really good in that, go there. Then you can operate your own stuff. How cool is that?
That one is really interesting because it comes along a discussion we had on that microphone some episodes ago, along the lines that industrials don't really understand what they are doing and they don't have anything to deal with
Yeah.
water. It turns out if they are hiring a
I,
head of wastewater
I
treatment,
remember who said this. I remember who said this.
wasn't it the bald
I was
guy from
thinking,
Germany?
yeah, I think Thomas Strack, right?
Oh no, I thought it was
Um,
you.
I said, okay, yeah,
No, you
maybe it
agreed
was
with
me as
Thomas Track,
well.
but Thomas Track was the one mentioning it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but exactly that's the point. I mean, they are their focus is totally different. I mean, they have to produce sugar or whatever, even the automotive, even at Tesla, for instance, in Grünheide. I know that they have a huge process water treatment plant. They have a huge wastewater treatment plant. By the way, I sold the process water treatment plant. So even there, they need operators. They need operators to handle that because their main focus is not on the water side, on the wastewater side. Their focus is to produce cars, sugar, or with Roche, any kind of chemicals. So that is their focus. And let them do their job, take care about to treat the water, to be in compliance, and to ensure that we don't harm the environment anymore.
And I think that could be also a different bet, but also a bet because you can be betting on the fact that more and more, if resource recovery becomes really a thing, if the markets really exist for it, and if water scarcity hits harder, which we expect it to do, well, if you are the head of wastewater treatment on a chemical site, you're in a position which may become really strategic because you may be the one which
Absolutely.
is
Absolutely.
safeguarding the supply of water for the plant and which might also become a side business because you're recycling whatever comes from the wastewater. So yeah, to me that sounds like an interesting bet to do these days.
I
Interesting
mean,
one.
I have seen a lot of chemical plants in Switzerland, for instance, right? I mean, you are quite often in Switzerland, and they have a lot of chemical plants, and they all have these kind of wastewater treatment facility. They all and they operate that, so that could be really a cool address to go, especially if you want to live in Switzerland. But even in other countries, you have these kind of industrial facilities. But let's say before going to BASF, which is somehow the biggest, I mean, go to the ones which are already looking like Roche, or go to Südzucker, or go to wherever, right? But really go to the industry, be on the then really you on the top, because you are the person everybody wants to reach out from the industry to get the technology done. Then Antoine will come and wants to sell a pipe or a sensor, right? That is really, you are then the decision maker, one of the decision maker the entire industry wants to go to. That is also very cool.
Sounds good. Well, let me go to my next one, and from my next one I want to play a little game with you, Björn. So imagine you would have to work for a company who does video games. That would be pretty
Hmm.
cool, right? That company would also just had published a book, which is a bestseller in this sector, and that company might be working on its second Netflix movie.
I'm not
So,
sure
which
talking about
company
which
may it
company.
be?
I don't know. Let me think. Let me think.
You're such a bad actor.
I know. Blue Tech. What about Blue Tech?
Exactly. So there is a position
Hey,
open at Blue Tech.
still open. I was thinking it's solved. Hey, Blue Tech, call me.
That guy has to
Okay,
plug himself.
interesting.
But
Interesting. I mean, this is open since really 2 months at least. I would even say
I would say
longer.
roughly.
Yeah.
To give a bit
Okay.
of context now beyond the joke, Blue Tech, if you don't know Blue Tech Research is one of these big companies we have which are looking at the surveying of the market. I mean, it's one of the three main ones, which are surveying and following the market, they have a special touch compared to the other ones, which is that they are really catering to startups and to investors. So a bit less on the utility side of. I mean, not that they would ignore it, but it's not their core. And they have that special touch to be the cool kids on the block with Paul O'Callaghan's Netflix movie Brave Blue World, with the video game they are currently developing, which is, if I'm right, almost finalized with the Paul's thesis, which has been turned into a book. And they have the Blue Tech Forum, which they are regularly organizing every year. So the next one is in Edinburgh in May. And so if you were to fill in this role, your tasks would be to really coordinate all those cool marketing efforts. You'll see that once again, I start to think that is an important skill to have for the future. Podcast is one of the skills you shall have. So, look,
No,
you
nobody's
should.
interested in that. Nobody's interested in that.
It sounds like there's something to do there. I mean, liaising with PR agencies, it's really a communication job, but communication and marketing job at the heart of a company, which is all about water innovation. So really, you are at the market pulse of our sector. What I found interesting as a concept is that they don't ask you to go to Ireland and to be based in Ireland. So it's really a remote offering, but it is still encouraged to be not too far in terms of time zone from Ireland. That's why I was joking with you, Björn, before about French
Mhm.
Polynesia. I fear if you're in French Polynesia, you won't fulfill that criterion of being in a zone where they can work really in office hours with you. But I do know that some of the people working for Blue Tech are in Austria, and I've met some of them across Europe. In the US as well. I think the number two of Blue Tech is in Vancouver, so they don't have a big problem with being across several time zones. Nevertheless, that is one of the criteria. But really, I found that to be really an appealing and interesting place to be.
I think,
Björn,
yeah, I think it reminds me to call Paul again that, I mean, that he should, first of all, he should, should take Twitter from the list. There's written that you have to handle Twitter. No, nobody's interested in that anymore.
Elon
But I think
disagrees
it
with you.
really, yeah, I know. I know Paul has his own opinion on many things. But it reminds me, I should call him that maybe if he doesn't find someone, maybe we can bridge that gap. No, but print in principle, let's say blue tech research, if you really have marketing skills, if you have a passion in water, good address to go, definitely. And especially if it is full remote and you are full responsible for everything. And they have one of the coolest conferences out there in our industry, right, Antoine?
Absolutely. I was there in Vancouver last year. I expect to be in Edinburgh in 2023.
Then
So,
oh, Edinburgh,
yeah.
so it's a little bit closer this time for us Europeans. I
Yeah,
mean,
a bit
yeah,
more ghosts.
Edinburgh, Edinburgh. Okay,
I mean, the ghosts, the castles, everything. That's my picture of Scotland. Yeah. Do you have more?
I have one more.
Good. Then you're up
I
next.
I have one more, which is from the company Belfor. Nobody knows Belfor. Do you know Belfor?
Belfort is a city not far from my home, but there's a T on top of it,
Yeah,
so it must not be that.
yeah. No. Balfour is a company who is coming to you if something happened really wrong. So if for instance, if a fire broke or if you have a wet wall, as I had very recently in my bathroom, and then they are coming to fix that. So it's a really someone who's managing every damage you can have on your industrial plants up to your private household. So it's a very professional and multinational company, and I found that interesting because they're looking for someone who's experienced with in water, right? And the other, let's say, requirements would be either you are good in water, or let's say you are a captain with a nautic patent. So now I was thinking, forget about the nautic patent, but if I'm passionate about water, maybe that could be really interesting if you want to go out, if you want to go to big industrial sites where they have damages, water damages, and then you can help them. And you can also help them if they have any haveries on ships, for instance, things like that. Has something to do with water. You know how water works, you know how water crashes, how you treat the water again, because it's always an emergency, things like that. That was an interesting. Balfour is totally a different sector, but they are looking for someone who is a sales or a consultant in the water with water experience. And that I found really interesting, because we also all have in general we all have chemical expertise, right? Even there, you need expertise in chemicals. What happened if you put this and this together? So, I mean, I simplify a lot of things here, sure, but let's say at least it is an interesting opportunity if you're looking for going in a total different direction, but at least something to do with water. I found that interesting. If you are really multinational traveler, this is cool. And if you are, hey, if you have a captain patent, or let's say at least you have an, let's say a small boat at home, it could be that this job is made for you. Antoine, what about you?
I don't know if that job would be
Should,
made
should,
for
I,
me.
should I click for you? I'm interested.
No,
I click for
I
you.
don't
I'm
think so.
interested.
Okay, I'm looking at the time, and I will have to short some of mine because I had really prepared too much. So let me take one more, and that one more I just took it because it's a bit different from what we discussed so far. So Elemental Accelerator is one of the climate tech accelerators out there, meaning that they're looking at more than just water, but one of their pillar is water. And actually, as all these startup accelerators, they're looking for coaches, and they're looking for people who can sustain and help them, and take the portfolio company and bring them to a different place. And they were looking here at a specific skills, which is to train those companies on sales. And they're looking for someone who has this experience from bringing a company from 1 to 50 salespeople. So really, if you have been a first employee, or a young a starting manager in sales, and you have been growing the team, you have exactly the skills that they're looking for. It is not a full-time job. It is not uh, uh, a fixed position. You would be an external contractor. So if you're a sales coach, or if you're, I know some which are like external business development for companies, I think you have exactly the skills which they would be looking for. So there would be two arms to that. First, you're training the next cohort, which is coming out, I think, in March. So you're really supporting them like 6-7 hours a week, and on top of that, you also work with the alumni of the network, again 3-4 hours a week. So it is not a full-time job. It is not going to take all your 8 to 5, but I think it's this kind of interesting position where you can really make a difference. And then, before asking you what you think about it, Björn, I just wanted to plug here the job board from Elemental Accelerator, because right now with their portfolio company, they have 790 position open. So if you're really willing to work in this environment, I just show you one, which is the Elemental Accelerator job board. Burnt Island Venture has also a job board. Imagine It has a job board. If you're really wanting to go into a startup scale up environment, and some of these companies are really well advanced on their path to scale up, it is a place to be. And there's positions. I just You can here take location remote if you're really not a US local, and there are many positions which are remote. You have position in Asia, position in India, position a bit everywhere in the world. Honestly, it is the best time ever to be in this industry, in this vertical,
Yeah,
and being at the beginning of a
fully
career
agree.
which you want to build. Um, I just wanted
Fully
to have your,
agree.
your thoughts on that one, Björn.
Um, I still, I mean, this is really just, let's say, for a time period from March to August 2023, if I read that right, right? So that means that it's just
One of the
a very
aspects,
short
yes,
period.
but you
But
also
let's
have the
say if you
year-round
are,
3-4 hours a week.
yeah, so but let's say if you are somehow the freelancer, if you, I mean, there are so many sales guys out there, business development guys out there. If they have a kind of coaching capabilities, let's go there. Let's take this low hanging fruit here and bring this together. If you have the passion for the industry, if you have the knowledge and the, the network for inside the industry, hey, that's exactly what they are looking for. Clearly, interesting, really interesting.
So in 3 words, just to tell you about the ones I skipped a lot of machine learning, AI, data, position. Honestly, if you have this capability, let me put back my banner. If you have this capability, the word is yours. Every single
Yeah,
company is looking for
but
that right
for
now.
every industry, right? Not only for the water industry,
Yeah,
really for
but
every
here
industry.
I would say the beauty with our industry is that you can have a bigger purpose. You're not doing that just for the sake of bettering the conversion rate of Amazon. You're doing that, and you're doing good on a broad
But
level. So that's really what I would be looking
but
into, one of
but
those
even
positions.
Amazon is looking for experts who have knowledge in water. especially
Yeah,
SDG 6 and all the other SDG CSR things and blah blah blah. So all I'm
don't open
saying
that
is that
box. Don't open that box.
no, I don't want to open that. All I'm saying
I've
is
met with their executives because I wanted to have them on the podcast, and they said whatever we do is top secret. We're not allowed to share. So if that changes one day, then I'll be the first to ring at their door. But yeah,
everything is top secret with Microsoft, with Apple, Google. Ooh.
so
Yeah, but anyway, I fully agree. I mean, there was never a better time to be water expert, right? If you're really passionate about water, if you have the knowledge, whatever you are going more technical product or business development, marketing, the world is yours. Really, the world is yours. I mean, you said there's plenty open jobs. I mean, I said on Stepstone, I just put in water. I found 6,000 jobs. So how? I mean, there was never a time like this. Really, if you have a diploma, if you have the knowledge, if you bring the passion with, hey, really, the world is yours. And the rest can always be trained. That is also. I mean, the mindset is more important than a diploma or whatever. My
so
conclusion.
with that great conclusion from you, Björn, I think it's time for us to close for today. It was good to have this kind of impromptu where we were coming together. Interestingly, you see, we didn't have any opening in double, so that means we've been
That
sometimes
was
browsing the
interesting.
same
Yeah.
pages and found different things interesting. So
Yeah.
it shows just the diversity which is out there, and I think on those conclusion words, it's maybe time to say to all of you, it was an awesome year to spend with you on the water show. We had the
Oh
chance to
yeah.
meet you physically on
I have
the various
goosebumps.
conferences. Yeah, on the
Now with
conferences
your
together. We
words,
had,
I get goosebumps. It was an
uh,
amazing year. I fully agree.
it was really full of encounters,
Yeah.
of new things to be learned, of new experiences, of meeting companies, people, discovering different realities, learning that the most important SDG was the one we never heard of, and so far and so on. It was
So
just a list of awesome experience. And thank you, Björn. It was cool to be sharing that show with you this entire year, and I hope we'll continue that in 2023. Who knows?
definitely we will because you already signed the contract, so you are bounded, so you can't
Ah,
go
shit.
away anymore. Thank you, Antoine, for being the other host here for this show, and thanks for the time we spent together. I mean, we made I don't know how many episodes we made, but we created tons of hours of material. And yeah, thank you everybody out there for being with us, right? Coming back, telling us stories, sharing us, giving us your swords. I think that is why we are doing that. We are not doing this here just for us. This is really, I mean, with all the 10 or 15 jobs we had today, hey, go for it. They are all low hanging fruit. There are opportunities there. So we really do this for you. Thank you, everybody, for watching us monthly, for reaching out to us, and yeah, hope to see you very soon. Wish you a great holiday season and an awesome 2023.
And see you next year.